All right, all right. I think we are live on day 3 of the Increase Process Safety Leadership Challenge. We've been getting amazing feedback from the participants, all the process safety leaders out there. So very excited to jump in today into what we call the Empower phase. So if you're just joining us, all the recordings are being posted here in our YouTube channel, and we have a community, and we're doing this 4-day challenge in which we're helping companies, process safety leaders, individual contributors systematically strengthen their process safety leadership without site pushback, policy overwhelm, or hiring additional personnel. And this is through a proprietary process safety leadership framework that we're breaking down in ant-size, pieces so that we can digest it and put it to practice. So just to recap, because it's always important to kind of start with the end in mind, our goals from this challenge are the following. We're going to explain how to reduce process safety risk by focusing on process safety leadership. This is what we focus on. This is our core competency, just because we have lived it, breathed through it, and we understand that there's a gap in the marketplace in which process safety leadership is just not talked about enough, and it's not driven systematically as much as we'd like to. We want to explain how to influence and help you as a viewer in our audience, how to influence upper management and the site, even if you're not a senior manager. So just because maybe you don't have a upper management job title, that does not mean that you're not able to influence. And we want to empower you through these systematic steps and frameworks. Then the next piece, or the next goal, is we're wanting to provide a clear roadmap, which is available for download. Just look at the comments and join our community. More details on that coming later. We want to provide a clear roadmap that we've developed to strengthen and increase process safety leadership at your site. Okay, so at the end of all this, it's all about helping you highlight focus areas for you to actually work on and walk away with an actionable plan to increase your site's, your company's process safety leadership culture. Okay, so we want to help you. We want you to use the tools. We want you to use these talking points so that you can walk away with actionable steps to begin your improving or actually just improving your process safety leadership immediately. Okay, so with that said, let's review the framework that we've been discussing these past few days to make sure that we're all on the same page. So this is the Safe Energy Ops Process Safety Leadership Framework. That's a big title, doesn't all fit in one cheat sheet. So with that said, we want to go ahead and quickly glance through this. Today, we're on phase 2. We're on day 3 of the challenge, but we're on phase 2, the Empower phase. So day 1, we did an overview as to why process safety leadership matters. It's important, and it needs to be focused on systematically. And then on day 1, we focus on getting alignment with the site, alignment with all the stakeholders systematically with the first 3 steps, which were establish safety case, articulate a vision, and set up collaboration channels. So if you're just tuning in, may want to go back to those videos, because we take you step by step through those and the exercises for the day. And then today we're going through the Empower phase. Okay, this is going to be our focus area right here today. And really, it's all about going ahead and helping the workforce and providing them all the tools so that they feel empowered, just like it describes, as to executing. So now that we understand why process safety leadership is such an important foundational piece to a proper process safety management program, and so that we can all return home together, and we've established alignment between the site and stakeholders. Now we want to go ahead and empower the team members, the support team members, the site team members, management, everybody in the organization to actually execute this and give them the tools that they need for this journey. So with that said, I'll hand it over to Felipe. He's going to be walking us through the main steps that actually cover the Empower phase. With that said, go ahead, Felipe, and let us know next steps here.
All right. Thanks, Joel. So, Empower phase consists of steps 4, 5, and 6 of the overall framework, promoting safe execution, reinforcing desired behaviors, and streamlining defect elimination. We'll be going through each of these. The goals, the overall goals of the Empower phase: establish new habits that promote process safety on a daily basis. So you'll find that what we're going for here is a cultural shift, right? New habits, new mindsets, new ways of looking at process safety that come up every day, because it takes repetition for us humans to ingrain something new in the way that we do things. Now we've got incorporate process safety conversations and reviews into day-to-day activities, part of the same habit forming process, and promoting a culture of courage and authority to stop activities that do not meet process safety standards. So you're trying to promote that, you're trying to empower your workforce with the authority, the courage they feel like they have to stop activities that don't meet our process safety standards, our new process safety initiatives. And finally, we're going to give the workforce tools to take over ownership of process safety improvement themselves. Feel like they have more ownership over the process safety management at the site. So, step 4, promote safe execution. So, what is safe execution? So, it is an acronym. The first letter S stands for stop. And what you want to do is you want to stop and ask what can go wrong before you perform an activity, whether that's a routine activity or a new activity you're performing for the first time. Part of performing a safe pause is stopping and asking what can go wrong here. What are my potential dangers, my hazards, my risks? In some sites, in some locations, your location perhaps might already have a risk assessment process in place when conducting work. This might be something that's already well developed, well established at your site, and that's great. That's definitely what we want to see when it comes to process safety management. So, this is part of that. This is part of that risk management process, that risk assessment before conducting a work activity. And so, if you have that as part of your permit to work process and the workforce carries that with them to the site, of course, they want to review that. They want to review those risks. But, this also applies to things that, might traditionally not require a full permit. More operational tasks, if you will, that aren't maintenance related, that might not have a specific start and end time that's filtered through your permit to work system. It could be an operational activity such as, going to make a flow change, a flow path change, or perhaps, emptying a drum using an air-driven pump. Depending on your site, activities that might not go through the full permit to work process. What we're promoting here, the key is that before any of these activities, the workforce should have a mindset of taking a safe pause that starts with stopping and asking what can go wrong. I have a risk assessment, great. I'm going to review that. I'm going to double check and make sure there's nothing else not covered by the risk assessment that I can come up with as far as hazards of what can go wrong. Okay. The next step, assess the layers of protection. Now that you have what can go wrong in your mind, what is preventing that consequence from happening? What's preventing from me getting to that danger occurring? And all of those individual layers of protection should be assessed. Assessed means the health of those barriers should be looked at and basically evaluated to see if it's working properly, if it's good enough. That might be specific safety equipment, such as, relief valves or wall barriers or instrumentation such as gas detectors, things like that. It could also, be physical containment barriers or even personal protective equipment. The key is that you list those layers of protection and assess the health of each again, you might have this already written in a formal risk assessment, which is great. That's awesome. And if you don't, if it's an operational task, or if your site doesn't require that, then that exercise should still be done. Should still be done by the technician, the operator, whoever's performing the work, to make sure that there are enough barriers in place, layers of protection between them and the hazard. Once the assessment is done, if there are any gaps in the layers of protection, they need to be fixed. So this is sort of the key step to where you decide whether you can proceed with the work or not. And those gaps should be fixed, and leadership, process safety leaders, supervisors should understand that the criticality that those barriers are functioning properly needs to be there before the activity goes forward. And personnel should feel like they have the authority to make that call. Finally, if the gaps cannot be sufficiently fixed, or again, something else needs to be corrected before the activity takes place, escalate as needed. Escalate up to the supervisor, escalate as far up as you need to, so that everyone understands this work activity poses a risk, layers of protection are not sufficient, we need to take further action, we need to delay this work activity. So this is the safe pause, safe execution, what we promote here as an essential element of process safety management and of empowering the workforce to take process safety into their own hands, is making this a habit. So why promote safe execution? How does it help achieve empowerment? So safe execution empowers the workforce with ownership over process safety barrier health. As you heard me state, as you heard me describe, walk you through the safe execution process, or the safe pause, you can see that when this is promoted, technicians, operators, your site workforce is going to feel empowered over assessing the health, process safety, barrier health of the facility, making sure everything's in order. The alternative to that is that you assume that everything is in order, right? You assume that everything is working properly because it's not, you haven't been told, you haven't been asked, no one expects you, and unfortunately sometimes no one exactly wants you to be looking at those things, but rather just go get the work done, right? So this is going to empower the workforce with that ownership and say, no, I need to make sure that all the safety barriers are in place before I perform my work. Promotes the courage and authority to stop activities that do not meet process safety standard. Along the same lines as I've walked through, that ability to stop the job is going to come with the promotion of the safe execution methodology. Lets the workforce know they will not be reprimanded for escalating process safety concerns. This is a huge part of process safety culture. Unfortunately, it's something you see come up in a lot of incidents, a lot of major incidents in history. Why wasn't something brought up sooner? Why wasn't something escalated? Well, oftentimes the pressure is not on making sure process safety defects or issues are raised, but on progressing with the schedule, on moving forward with the activity, on getting the job done. Promoting safe execution is going to let the workforce know, escalate as part of the process. You have to escalate. We expect you to escalate if there are safety gaps that need to be resolved before a work activity is conducted. And it establishes process safety as priority. Simple as that. It's not just get the job done. It's, hey, now we want you to assess these things and escalate if they are not in place. Gives the workforce a new perspective on performing day-to-day tasks. This is part of the mindset shift, the culture shift that we promote here, that we're trying to promote throughout this entire framework. Getting safe pauses to become a habit is going to give the workforce a new perspective on how they do work day to day. That means they're going to confront issues, they're going to confront activities with a new mindset, with a new lens, a frame of mind, because they're looking at process safety barriers. They're looking at more things than just the activity itself. So common struggles we've seen when a site tries to promote safe execution or some version of a safe pause. Site personnel perceive there's no time for it. This gets after the pressure to perform, the pressure to move on, to get the job done. And anything that slows that down, that stands in the way, feels like something that can't be afforded, because what they're judged on, what their performance is measured against, is what they were able to get done, not necessarily how safe or how far from an incident they were able to do it. And so that, unfortunately, is a struggle that needs to be overcome in many sites. Site personnel not adequately trained in process risk assessment. So this comes to knowing how to identify hazards when you perform a safe pause. Are you able to recognize what a potential hazard is for your activity? Are you able to recognize, the likelihood of that hazard and what your mitigations are, what your layers of protections are between you and that hazard? Without this technical foundation, without this technical training, your safe pauses are not going to be as effective. It's as simple as that. And as we stated in previous sessions in this challenge, Safe Energy Ops Framework is not intended to be a replacement for technical hazard and risk assessment training. This is a framework for promoting safety leadership, for changing safety culture at a site, but you still need that technical foundation if you want to execute these principles effectively and how they need to be executed. Finally, what good looks like has not been modeled. So you might have explained how to do a safe pause, how to perform a safe pause, even why a safe pause is important. But if what a good safe pause looks like has not been sufficiently modeled many, many times to get that repetition to make it a habit, then it's going to be hard for it to be done well and for it to be sustained. And so what you want to do is you want to basically have lots of examples of what a good safe pause looks like. You'd like demonstrations, taking example work activities, identifying the hazards, identifying the layers of protection, and making sure, everyone understands what a good safe pause looks like. So when they visualize it so clearly, they can, when it comes time for them to perform it, they'll be performing it more accurately and more effectively. So to sort of drive home, what the common struggles look like, what a site might look like that is in need of safe execution that does not have that habit in place, I would like for you to imagine a pilot getting ready for takeoff. Now, the pilot has been told by his supervisors that the plane is ready. Everything's ready, you're good. No need to check anything, really. The pilot is pressured to stay on schedule. So the pilot's told, hey, look, you know how tight we are right now. We don't have that much time. We need you to go ahead and get this plane taken off. Pre-flight safety checks are not required. So they might be mentioned, but there's no requirement to perform a pre-flight safety check. And what a good pre-flight safety check looks like has not been modeled for the pilot. So the pilot does have flight school training, but there hasn't been training on this specific aircraft. No pre-flight safety checklist or things to look for this specific aircraft. Just the flight school training that the pilot came with is all the pilot has to go off of. So the question here would be, how empowered would you say this pilot is to take the time to perform a pre-flight safety check and those type of checks? My guess is that the pilot would not feel very empowered, not feel the need, not feel the drive to do that. The pressure is going to be on maintaining schedule. That's what he or she is being measured against. And unfortunately, there may be some safety gaps there that he or she's not aware of that need to be fixed. it's more likely for those things to fall through the cracks in this type of situation. So the 3 steps that we promote at Safe Energy Ops for instilling safe execution as a habit include step 1, securing that leadership buy-in. Of course, it just starts with leadership. It really starts with leadership, setting the tone, exemplifying the behaviors, and promoting these initiatives. Linking safe pauses to reduced incidents and increased uptime is how we recommend you approach part of the approach of getting that leadership buy-in. What this means is, we talked yesterday about the alignment phase and about getting that leadership buy-in by showing the connection between process safety and smoother running facilities, less incidents, less downtime. Again, not that takes precedent over process safety, but showing that connection, which is often not emphasized or it's missed, I think will help with this buy-in, because it shows that they are not mutually exclusive, that they can support each other, that over a longer period of time, not a short-term lens, but a longer-term lens, you will be better off. You will see greater benefits than you would have, continuing to just row the boat in a nameless, a sort of less aimed direction. And so, same thing with safe pauses. Show that safe pauses at the end of the day reduce incidents, so it reduces the time that's needed to recover from those incidents, and it increases the uptime accordingly because you have less issues. You can move on to the next activity without having to fix something that went wrong because that time wasn't taken to perform the safe pause. You also want to train leadership to create space for these safe pauses and fixing of safety gaps. So hopefully once they're on board, you'd like to train them to give the workforce the space and the time to perform the safe pauses and to fix any resulting safety gaps that come from the assessment part of that safe pause. And so, that's key to allowing the safe pause methodology, the safe pause habit to take hold. Without that time and space, you'll just continue status quo, and unfortunately continue having more incidents that could be prevented by these safe pauses. Step 2, provide safe execution training. If you want the personnel to perform safe pauses, of course you have to train them on what a good safe pause looks like, how to conduct it, how you expect them to perform it. And again, you need to provide that formal training on how to identify hazards and assess risks. So that has to be part of the foundation of safe execution, something that you'll need to look for to provide, as the sort of the precursor, the foundation to safe execution. Step 3, instilling safe execution as a habit. Now we've got leadership bought in, they understand the value, they're providing the space and time for these safe pauses to be performed. The workforce has been trained on how to execute a safe pause. It's time to now just make it a habit. And so it comes with, of course, that repetition, talking about it. So we recommend making it a requirement, a formal requirement before every activity. The format of that, of course, can vary. It can be site dependent on how that looks like, whether that's written in written down or in a software or some other format, and keep demonstrating what a good safe pause looks like. That repetition is going to it's going to get you that habit formation for safe execution. So imagine the pilot again, but this time the pilot supervisors require a pre-flight safety check. It's a requirement. What a good pre-flight check looks like has been modeled for the pilot based on that aircraft, based on the specific safety features of that aircraft. so the pilot knows exactly what needs to be done, what needs to be looked out for. The pilot has been trained on the safety features of the aircraft. Again, that technical training foundation has been provided to the pilot. And the pilot is allowed to stop takeoff if there are gaps in the safety check. The pilot is now empowered and is expected to do that. So let me ask you, which plane would you rather fly on? The one without the safe mindset, the safe execution mindset, or this one where all the pre-flight safety checks are done and the pilot has the authority to make the right call and stop the flight if there are safety gaps? Personally, of course, I would choose this flight, even if I was a little bit, further behind schedule, because I know at the end of the day, if something happens in the air, something bad happens in the air, not only will I be probably further behind my schedule because we had to land somewhere else, mid-flight or something like that, but I may not get there at all, right? That's the reality of the situation. So everything about safe execution, of course, is promoted in our safe execution cheat sheet, which can be found on the community website for download. Recommend that. Has everything we've discussed so far in there. All right, the next step in the empower phase is step 5, reinforce desired behaviors. So why reinforce desired behaviors? How does it help achieve empowerment? Reinforcing desired behaviors is going to encourage confidence, is going to increase courage and confidence to uphold process safety standards, even in the face of pressure from time, production, productivity. If the desired behaviors are continually reinforced by process safety leaders, by management, it's going to make the workforce, feel more confident in themselves to push back if they feel pressure from, any individual or peers or even other leaders to move forward with an activity that's not ready, because they've been modeled, the behavior, the process safety leadership behavior has been modeled for them, and so they have that sense of courage. They know that they're doing the right thing. Fostering new habits, reinforcing desired behaviors. As I said earlier, through that repetition, you're going to instill the new habits that we're looking for better process safety management. Enhancing team unity. So of course, getting everyone on the same page as far as the right behaviors is going to get the team more unified. So you don't have some folks that are passionate about process safety, or they do see the importance of having certain behaviors, and others that don't, and others that think that it's a waste of time, but instead the desired behaviors are modeled for everyone and reinforced, so hopefully everyone gets on the same page. Keeps the mind primed on process safety vigilance. So these desired behaviors, as they're discussed day in and day out, it's just going to keep that mind primed that, hey, when I perform work, I need to have this type of mindset. I need to be vigilant about hazards. I need to look out for my process safety barriers. So again, reinforcement is going to reinforce that vigilance as well. Common struggles we see on reinforcing desired behaviors at a site. The site leaders do not model the desired behavior. So this is not the first time we've brought up, the fact that it's just essential that leadership themselves model the desired behaviors. They perform the actions that we're preaching here. And so it starts with leadership. That's why this is about process safety leadership. Site leaders have to when they perform work, they might not perform the physical work, but when they supervise the work, when they give the next steps, describe what needs to be done next, they have the desired behaviors in mind instead of the old behaviors. Desired behaviors not discussed often enough. So if you're only talking about it once a week in a safety meeting, you're not going to have any luck changing the culture at a site, getting these desired behaviors to take hold. So it really needs to be discussed frequently and modeled frequently. And finally, lack of after action reviews. After action reviews are a review of an activity after it is completed to determine what went well and what did not go well, any lessons learned. And that's when you really want to take advantage of assessing how well the desired behaviors were implemented in activities and pointing that out, right? Whether it went well or did not, pointing out, hey, this was done exactly according to our process safety standards, according to our process safety, culture, our policies, our procedures, and we would like to commend everyone involved in this activity. And having everyone hear that, listen to that, is going to again reinforce the desired behavior and promote those behaviors in those individuals. On the contrary, if the activity was performed without those behaviors, then you want to point that out and make everyone aware. Look, the activity was performed, it was executed, it was completed. Fortunately, we didn't have any major incidents, but we noticed we failed to check for hazards, and this hazard was missed. This process safety barrier was not functioning properly, and no one noticed. These are not in line with our process safety behaviors, our standards, our culture, and our policies. So we need to do better next time. Okay, we need to do better. This is what it should look like. And unfortunately, if you don't have those after action reviews, then you miss an opportunity to do that and to promote the culture. Let's go back to the pilot. So imagine the pilot is told by supervisors to go ahead and perform a pre-flight safety check, but the pilot's never asked later if the pre-flight safety check was completed, right? The only question that is asked after the flight's taken off or once the plane has landed is, was it on schedule? Was it on schedule? And how much fuel was used? If those are the only questions that you're asked, you can imagine your motivation to perform that pre-flight safety check, even though you were told that to perform it. At the end of the day, no one asks you about it, right? So what motivation do you have to do it? How empowered do you feel to do it? Findings from pre-flight checks or incidents during the flight are not discussed or shared. So you have safety gaps. Something happens during the flight and you have to resolve it. How much does your leadership, does your management seem to care? Seem to care that that's happened? Seem to care that, hey, we should communicate this to our other pilots and our other air crew so that everyone learns the lesson. If that's not happening, then again, you can imagine how motivated or how empowered a pilot is going to feel to make sure that everything is checked and double checked and done properly before a flight takes place. Post-flight reviews of safety checks and safety responses before and during flight are not conducted or shared. So, as I just mentioned, after the plane has landed, there's no looking back to see how well the flight went, what went well, what didn't go well, so that there can be lessons learned, sharing, and there can be conversations with the pilot about what to do better next time. None of that occurs, then you're not going to have any luck with the pilot behaving in a safety-minded way, in the desired way for future flights. So 3 steps that we promote to reinforcing desired behaviors effectively at your site include step 1, training leaders to hold each other accountable for displaying the desired process safety behaviors. Now, I mentioned getting that leadership buy-in is crucial. It's the first step. It starts with the leadership, and I'm not going to tell you that it's easy, but an effective way to try to get it done and get it sustained is to have the leaders actually hold each other accountable for displaying those behaviors. Now, we're human. If we're used to thinking a certain way for so long, and even if we want to change, let's say that we understand the right behaviors and we would like to have those right behaviors, it's going to take some time and repetition to change your way of doing things that's been ingrained for some time now. That's where we can hold each other accountable, right? And so what that looks like is leadership making a commitment to each other on an agreed set of standards, desired behaviors, and saying, hey, look out for me, and if you see me not behaving in the proper way, in the desired way when it comes to process safety, let me know. Let me know so that I can make changes, I can make corrections right then and there, and I can reinforce that in myself to make it a habit for myself. Step 2, discussing desired behaviors by incorporating prompts in daily meeting agendas. So this is all about bringing the desired behavior process safety conversation into the day-to-day by taking existing meetings and inserting a prompt that's going to get you to talk about it in that meeting. That can be something like a safety observation program that's brought up, and the first order of business for a meeting is please discuss any safety observations from the day from today's work activities. That's a simple example. It could also be, an after action review for the activities, one of the activities for that day, and it could be a different activity every day. Let's review how this went today. And in that review, you take advantage and you discuss process safety behaviors in a way that reinforces, what the right ones are and what needs to be improved upon for the workforce. Step 3, finally, would be to perform the periodic after action reviews and highlight desired or undesired safety behaviors. So I mentioned it in step 2 because it was an example for a daily activity that takes place every day. But, again, it can be done for activities that are not done every day, that are done infrequently. And it could be something more formal, a meeting just for that discusses what went well, what didn't go well in a detailed way, so that, again, the right behaviors are reinforced and what good looks like continues to be modeled day after day. So imagine that the pilot's version of, or the airline industry's version of the 3 steps above are implemented. The pilot would know that he or she will be asked about the pre-flight safety check at a later point. At some point, he or she will be asked about that pre-flight safety check. The pilot would feel empowered to perform the check with quality and care and report any findings. Performance would not just be measured by schedule anymore, right? We will have more ways to measure performance that include all the right safety checks being conducted and the right responses to those safety checks. The pre-flight safety check would now become a habit. And the pilot would understand what good safety checks look like before, during, and after flights, and learn from the sharing of post-flight lessons learned from other flights. This, as you can see, would make for a much more safety-minded pilot, an environment of safety for the pilot, for the air crew, and ultimately result in new habit formation of desired behaviors in the pilot moving forward. So the cheat sheet for reinforced desired behaviors contains the common struggles and 3 steps we discussed. Go ahead and please download it and share it with your teams. Okay, step 6 and the final step in the empower phase is to streamline defect elimination. Why streamline defect elimination, and how does it help achieve empowerment? Streamlining defect elimination is going to increase ownership of process safety defects. So we're going to get into this in more detail as it goes along. Empowers more people to take action against process safety defects, and it allows more people to feel pride in the site's process safety performance. And finally, it minimizes bottlenecks in the development of solutions. So what are we getting at here? we're getting at basically having the workflow processes at your site that encourage people to take action because they feel like it's going to make a difference. The workflow processes at a site is something that's it's very important to how a site does business. And what I'm going to talk about in a moment is going to clarify some things about what we mean by workflow processes. But overall, what we're trying to introduce here, what we're trying to get at is an effective way for process safety defects to be tackled by more people at the site. This is going to increase ownership. This is going to make people feel like they can make a difference, and it's going to get problems solved efficiently so that they don't build up and form a backlog. All of this empowers the workforce to take action. As I said, there is a caveat. There is a very important consideration to keep in mind here that we want to clarify. Changes to process equipment and changes that pose medium or high risks to a site must be performed with the proper engineering, technical, and operational reviews. This is referred to as the management of change. It's a very popular term across many industries. You know, we come from, Joel and I, very, very popular term. And it's actually something, management of change is something that has come out of process safety incidents in history where changes were made without the proper reviews, without the proper technical reviews, and resulted in an incident. That could be something like, you know, the wrong specification of material that wasn't rated correctly for the service, for the pressure, or for the temperature. It could also be, you know, a piece of electrical equipment that, you know, unfortunately was sourced from a fabricator that did not follow adequate quality assurance and safety processes, which resulted in a failure in the site that caused an incident. These types of changes to the process equipment, the design, or a critical piece of safety equipment must be performed with the proper management of change in place. So our intent with this step 6, streamline defect elimination, is to optimize workflow processes to allow more people to get involved in defect elimination, not to increase risk by allowing changes with the potential for risk to go unmanaged. This is a key clarification that I want to make. We do feel strongly about this step and streamline defect elimination, but this is not intended to undercut that management of change process that is essential as well into managing process safety risks. So, common struggles we see with streamlining defect elimination, the same workflow processes apply to all solutions. So whether it's something small or something big, you've got the same process for everything, regardless of risk, regardless of size, regardless of complexity. Field personnel simply lack the knowledge of workflow processes. They don't know what the workflow process is to get many things done. So, where do they start? Oftentimes they don't start because they don't know, it's too complex or it's too mysterious. I really don't know. So I'm just going to continue to do my thing. And field personnel are not encouraged to solve defects. Their leadership, their management aren't encouraging them to go out and go ahead and take that problem and solve it from cradle to grave, own that problem. Well, they're not hearing that, they're not being encouraged to do that. And, even if they did want to, just seems a bit too hard because the workflow processes are, I'm just not sure what they are. So to drive these common struggles home, I'd like for you to imagine a small to medium-sized town. The same multi-layered review, justification, planning process is applied to virtually all activities, from changing a light bulb in the town square to constructing a new building. You got to fill out the same application, the same, handoffs to different departments, regardless of what the job is that the town needs. Most people don't know what the processes are, so many people just don't bother, unfortunately. The burden falls on a small group that, maybe their formal role is to perform, maintenance activities, to understand what the processes are. But unfortunately, all of the activities tend to fall on this small group that is knowledgeable about what the process is. More problems arise than are being solved, so a backlog develops. You can imagine if all of this burden falls on a small group, sooner or later there's going to be more problems coming up than they're able to solve because they just don't have the resources. And finally, the town's leadership does not encourage more involvement by the general population. Instead, they just try to get more work squeezed out of the small group. How many times have we been in those situations? So it's difficult, and it causes a lot of issues to be in that small group, and unfortunately a lot of complacency to develop in the rest of the population as they get used to seeing problems stay the same, and the small group really just getting burnt out because they can never catch up. So the 3 steps we promote for streamlining defect elimination. Step 1, develop streamlined workflow processes for low risk, non-engineered solutions. That is key. And as I explained earlier, with those higher risk, solutions that require engineering, you have to go through that management of change process. You want to be very careful about taking any layers out of the process. I'm not saying that you couldn't. I'm not saying that it still can't be optimized, but I want to make that distinction that quality assurance, technical assurance must still be provided when those solutions and changes are implemented for those defects. This would maximize field personnel authority. So streamlining these workflow processes would make the workforce feel like they have more control over the outcome of solving this defect, right? Because they would have a better understanding of what the workflow process is, and ideally in the streamlined workflow process, they're going to be able to perform more of the steps in the process, which is going to give them more sense of authority over the defect elimination process overall. And streamlined procurement, planning, and scheduling. So, in our experience, this is where you can really, really get at the streamlining, is in the procurement, in the planning and scheduling processes for the execution of the activity. That's where we've seen that there's the most room for improvement in terms of streamlining is in those aspects of the process. Again, engineering technical assurance has to be there. Maybe there's some optimization you can do there, definitely look at it. But when it comes to procurement, planning, and scheduling, man, you can really, you want to make sure you have that optimized as best as you can, with as few layers as needed, because that can really make a difference in how quickly you're able to eliminate defects and how the workforce is going to feel about taking action. Step 2, train the site on these streamlined workflow processes. Once you've developed them, of course, you have to train the site. Hey, we've made these changes, we've made these improvements. It's going to be easier for us to move something forward from start to finish in terms of eliminating defects. Here's the new process. Ensure the training is thorough so everybody understands. This is going to foster a sense of ownership and responsibility on the part of the workforce for progressing the solutions along the workflow, right? Okay, it's no longer someone else's fault that something isn't progressing because I have the authority to move it along. So I'm going to feel a sense of ownership for doing that. And finally, step 3, encourage field personnel to solve defects while respecting control of work processes. So encourage field personnel. Now they have the streamlined workflow processes. They have the training on what those workflow processes are. Now you have to encourage them to go out and look for defects that need to be solved. Hey, if you were complacent before and you kind of stopped looking for defects because you knew it was going to be some complex process that probably wouldn't get accomplished, now go out and look, because hey, guess what? You have more authority, you have more ability to make an impact now. So go do it. But of course, we have to respect our control of work processes. What that means is, don't go out and change a valve on your own without any kind of, notification, permit to work, anything like that. Of course, we still have to follow our processes, but, we streamline them for you. So get out and have a renewed sense of vigor when it comes to defect elimination. And you want to recognize when defects are eliminated. This is going to be part of that encouragement, inspiration to continue moving forward in the process safety defect elimination process, and create the space for personnel to solve defects. So kind of like the safe pauses before performing an activity. At the end of the day, if personnel are just overwhelmed with the activities that they have going on, they're not going to have the time to look for defects and solve defects. It's one of those investments that has to be made by process safety leadership to say, okay, it's not just me anymore as a process safety leader looking for defects. I'm going to give my people the time to go out and look for the defects, because now we have workflow processes that everyone can start, everyone can manage on their own up to a certain point. And it's just going to spread the workload in a positive way to get more things done. So imagine that town again, but this time more people understand the processes for fixing issues and are empowered to participate. People take pride in how well the town is performing and how well the town is doing. And people feel like they can make a difference. You can see how empowering it is to have streamlined workflow processes, right? Just feel like they can make a difference. And, of course, if I'm making a difference, I'm going to have more pride in how well, my town, my home, my site is doing. Streamlined defect elimination cheat sheet. Everything we just described all in one place. Highly encourage you to download it and share. And that takes us through all of the empower phase, all the 3 steps. I'll hand it back off to you, Joel. Take us home.
Awesome. Well, Felipe, thank you so much for taking the time to break down those concepts and those stories. And, as you were going through the analogies there, I got goosebumps just thinking about getting on a airplane without proper safety checks. So if that message and that story did not drive the point home, I don't know what would or what will, right? So definitely appreciate that. So like as Felipe is saying, let us know in the comments if you're watching this as a replay, what was your biggest takeaway? Come into the community, join us, participate. We're putting out all these tools, all these content pieces so that we actually continue the process safety leadership conversation forward. So just as a recap, because we understand your time is valuable, is, what have we covered? So, we covered why and how to make safe pauses a habit at a site. There's a clear difference, between just being reactive and being proactive. And I think that's one of the key lessons here in terms of process safety leadership culture, is making it a point. Then we spoke about how reinforcing desired behaviors creates a positive shift in the process safety culture of a site. So, if for a fact that you're going to get asked, hey, did you do your your safety pauses and how did it go? You're going to feel that obligation already, knowing that you're going to be held accountable for that. And that's what we want to push through. We want to push through a proactive approach as to what process safety leadership is in our sites. And then we spoke about how streamlining defect elimination can increase ownership over process safety and result in more defects eliminated. And we made it very clear that this does not replace management of change, control of work, essentially the key core technical competencies that are needed to manage changes and manage that risk. Now, with that said, empowering and looking at our processes just to be more efficient, has its pros in terms of the energy and how we empower the sites. And we've lived through this. We've seen this, firsthand. A lot of the A players, they want to have an impact. And so looking at the processes and seeing, hey, is there a way that we can streamline this, not cut corners, not replace technical ability, not replace management change, but essentially, is there a way that we can streamline this a little bit? It goes a long way for team morale. Okay. And so how all these things result in an empowered workforce ready to work towards a process safety excellence, it is definitely a team effort. It needs to be a site-wide, a company-wide culture shift if you're ever going to make a stride in terms of what your process safety management program is. There's so many policies, there's so many requirements, but if your culture is off, that means that your leadership is off, because leadership is really what drives the site's culture and actually the execution. And so by putting these pieces of content, have these conversations, bring it to your next process safety moment. You can use these as process safety moments in your company. We'd love for you to, use these and actually have an open conversation with your team and ask the tough questions so that you can reflect and continue the process safety leadership conversation moving forward. So, quote unquote, homework day 3. This should be fun. We want you to go ahead and download the Empower Phase cheat sheets. We went through the key 3 steps. So those are promote safe execution, reinforce desired behaviors, and streamline defect elimination. So step 1, very simple. Just go ahead and join our community and access these downloadables 100% free, no cost whatsoever. And then we want you to complete the Empower Phase self-assessment. I'll show you what this looks like. And again, this is day number 3 of our 4-day Increased Process Safety Leadership Challenge. And as I mentioned earlier, and Felipe alluded to, we want you to walk away with a crystal clear roadmap as to what to focus. And so we have our Process Safety Leadership Index dashboard tool. And here, essentially, if this is your first time looking at it, you'll be provided a copy to download inside of our community. And what we want you to do is essentially, here's the thing. So yesterday we went through the first phase, which is a line phase, right? And we completed these prompts. Okay, today I'll just take you through an example. You're going to grade, and probably this is best to do it as a team with your team. So take, these cheat sheets, or maybe you can draft it and then, share as a process safety moment in your company. But essentially, you're going to grade yourself from 1 to 5. If you strongly disagree, it would be a 1. And if you strongly agree, it would be a 5, right? And so ideally, you would be at a 5 in all areas for an excellent process safety leadership index. But let's say for promote safe execution. Okay, so the first question is the link between safe pauses, reduced incidents, and increased uptime has been presented and recognized by site leadership. Do you strongly disagree? Or do you strongly agree? Or are you somewhere in the middle, right? If you strongly disagree, then you would rate yourself as a 1, right? And this is all about not what you think as a silo, but just reflecting on your site's culture, right? You looking at it. Second one would be leadership has been trained on how to create space for safe pauses and the correction of safety gaps prior to commencement of work. Have you seen leadership being trained on the importance of, measuring twice, 3 times, 5 times before cutting, right? This is about making sure that we're taking a safe pause before executing. And so you're going to go through these questions, okay, for the 3 steps that we discussed today. reinforce desired behaviors is, another one, and then streamline defect elimination. And you can put some notes in here, and that's going to give you a result here, right? A little bit like like a graph, and what we call the Safe Energy Ops Performance Index here. And tomorrow we'll cover the last 3 steps. And what we want you to do is join our community, complete the exercise, and share kind of the results, share your takeaways. Even if you're just watching this on YouTube, we want to know what's going on in your mind. If this is useful, what is your biggest takeaway? And you can use this as a conversation point for your site to push the conversation forward. All right. So inside of our community, if you decide to come in, again, it's 100% free. There's no cost to join whatsoever. But inside of our community, in the Process Safety Leadership, you can go here and let's see, challenges. Here you'll be able to see, you join the challenge, and you will click complete, and you would upload a picture of your result. Okay, so let's say I completed that picture there. I took a snapshot. Maybe this one didn't work, but essentially you upload and you kind of state, hey, this is my results for the day. And this is what we got. This was my takeaway. So let's see here. I could do that. And I would just put in my takeaways for today. And that's a typo right there, but you get the point. And the idea is that we're sharing as a community. And once you complete this, we all celebrate with you. Look how fun that is. So go ahead and join the community. I hope this was useful. Let us know in the comments what was the biggest takeaways. Join the community. Use these as a downloadable talking point tool for you. So I don't have anything else for the audience. Felipe, anything you want to share before we log off today?
Thanks for joining, and I hope to see you tomorrow for the final phase.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tomorrow we're going to be discussing sustained phase, which is one of the key concerns that we've seen after working with multiple sites across industry and just networking with other peers in the process safety community. So with that said, keep the conversation going, keep process safety leadership top of mind, and we will see you on tomorrow's challenge. Take care. Bye-bye.